We had one early interventionist. We still exchange Christmas cards. So she came out to the house every week, and I can remember literally standing at the window some weeks and just waiting for her to pull up because he was my first. He was atypical, so it was all brand new.
So I was a classroom teacher previously, before this job, and I really got into this because of my son. I had my son at 29 weeks. So he was about 3 months early, and he was in the NICU and intensive care for 8 weeks.
I had a very healthy pregnancy, and during my induction, I went through placental abruption. So when he was born, he was very, very sick, very critical. There were a lot of unknowns, and he was in the NICU for 112 days.
Everything went well with my pregnancy, had no problems at all. And after my son was born, we were told by the doctors that he had Down syndrome. They also told us that he had a congenital heart defect. In addition to that, he had pneumonia. And he was really a sick little baby. And I was in a state of shock. I didn't know how to process that information.
We started out with him seeing a neurologist just because his head was really large and it continued to grow. Developmentally, milestones were a little late, and his pediatrician put in a referral.
So we get referrals from anywhere. Lots of different people can make referrals. So it doesn't have to necessarily be from a primary care physician, which I think is what a lot of people think, is that the physicians have to refer. But we also get referrals from grandparents. We get referrals from child care providers. We get direct referrals from moms and dads who feel like sometimes they're just not being heard by their pediatricians or their child care teachers. And so they will call or email and say, hey, I've got concerns about this, that, or the other. And then we're able to kind of get in and support those families that way. Our referrals are for kids birth to the time they turn 3 years old. And usually there's a concern for some type of developmental disability. Sometimes mothers just know something seems a little off, right? And so they'll call and ask for support and guidance. And we can kind of come alongside of them and help kind of ease those fears and provide support that they need.
And they explained to us that children that go through early intervention and start with therapies have a greater chance for a better outcome. And so, the NICU had really told us it was a wait and see game, and we just wanted the best for him. So we started with early intervention as soon as possible. I think he came home June 17th, and the second week of July, we were connected with services and ready to go.
So this time in a child's development is critical. That brain is growing every day. And I'll tell you, I went to a conference several years ago, and the speaker used this example. If you see a child at, let's say, 3 months old, and then in 6 months later at 9 months old, the child looks completely different, right? Versus if you see a child at 16 years old to 17 years old, there's not a lot that changes in that time frame. But that brain in those first 3 years is changing daily. All of that development and growth is happening. And so the earlier you know, the better they grow, right, is our kind of catchphrase with early intervention. And so we want to make sure that we're supporting that healthy brain and physical development early on. And not just that, but supporting the families so that they're able to support their child. Our program really is about the whole family and coming alongside mom and dad or the caregivers to really make sure that they have the confidence and the capacity to continue that growth and exploration in their child.
When I started working for the CDSA, I was a service coordinator. And in the service coordinator role, you're going out into the homes, into the natural environment to see the children with their families, to manage their cases and help them get services and resources that's going to be beneficial for them.
So we use a coaching model. So our job is to coach the parents and basically becoming the child's therapist. Because we know that, one, it's best to embed the work into daily routines so it doesn't seem like work, but that it's functional for the child and for the families. And two, it needs to be carried out more than when just the therapist comes. I always tell my families, if I wanted to, get in shape, going to the gym 1 time a week might be a little bit of a help, but if I went to the gym 3 to 5 times a week, it's going to be a lot more benefit. So teaching the parents and how to carry out certain activities or stretches or different things that they could do throughout the day with their child every day.
Those therapists come into your home and they meet you in your daily routine. If you're feeding the dog, if you're folding laundry, if you're whatever you're doing, they meet you in that routine. They may work on walking when you walk to the mailbox to pick up the mail. They may sit down on the floor and play as well if that's appropriate, but they meet you during your daily routine. And early intervention is a coaching model. So the therapists that work with the kids in early intervention make such an impact because they teach you as the adult, as the parent and the caregiver, how to work with that child, because you can't separate those two.
So they were able to see our home environment, and they helped us figure out things that we could do and modify in our own home. That's very different from loading him up and taking him to a clinic. They don't have the view of our home, and there's only so much that they can, help us with in the clinic setting. So we literally became our son's therapist. We became his speech therapist. We became his physical therapist, his occupational therapist. We were everything, and we could not have done it. I think if they would have came in and been hands-on, we would have not had the skills because they were doing everything. But they showed us exactly, so when that hour was done, we could continue on because we had been coached in what to do.
We provide lots of different services and supports. Some that are kind of probably the most known are our occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy. We also have what's called special instruction, which I say is kind of like a special educator for little bitties. So they come into the homes and work alongside the parents. We are very lucky at our CDSA to have an audiologist on staff, so we're able to provide hearing evaluations and screenings as well. And we're even more lucky that we have a lot of social and emotional supports at our local CDSA.
He was really, medically involved. He had a lot going on, so he qualified for just about every service that was available. He received speech therapy weekly, physical therapy weekly, occupational therapy weekly. We even had a nutritionist. Seeing him progress was amazing. That was the highlight, and understanding how crucial my role was as a parent, because they would only come out like once a week for like an hour, So what I did in between time is what mattered the most. That's what was so exciting for me as a parent, to see that this is really working.
And he was able to start enjoying everyday things that a typical toddler, a typical baby would, like sitting in a grocery cart, or it was just such a task just to load him up. And they walked through that whole process with us.
It gave our entire family hope to believe that, oh, look, calling our family up and say, hey, he's walking now, and, he's doing horseback riding now. Like, these are things, horseback riding, like, it was amazing.
I think the important thing about our program is that we are here for all families. It doesn't matter what a family's income is. It doesn't matter, how delayed a child is. We're here to help them and try to provide resources to them to help them benefit from the program. I would encourage them to give us a try. It's a voluntary program. At any time, they can pull the plug and say, I don't think this is for us, but they're not going to know until they give us a try.
And I would say to any parent, and I have said to parents, you have to go for it. You have to jump in. You know, some people don't like people in their homes. I think that's another thing that can be a deterrent. But there's so many benefits to having the team come to you. And so I would say jump in. The sooner the better. Jump in head first, you know, and get started.
I left early intervention empowered, knowing how to advocate, knowing what to ask for, knowing what to look for. And I work with families now and help them to be empowered because that you know, impacted me so much, made such a difference for me.
Intervening early is going to be so beneficial to your child for years to come. You may not be able to see it now, but just being open and allowing others to help and to be supportive and to be involved and to embrace that whole team concept. There are some families that may not be quite ready, but at least be open, read, do your research, ask questions, talk to other families, and then, you know, at least be willing to try.
We are changing the world one little life at a time. I think so many times our babies get kind of pushed to the side. We think about education in elementary school and middle school and high school, but when you bring a child home from the hospital as a new parent, it's scary.
You never want to have to go through the NICU, right? And that experience. But when you go through that, you have a lot of support. You have a lot of people around you. You're with nurses every day. You're meeting with the doctor. And there's a lot of support. And then you get sent home and you're kind of like, okay, wow. You know, I've got this. I mean, he was 5 pounds when I brought him home. You know, so you've got this little baby, and so to have that support and to know that there was a program out there and that he was going to be monitored developmentally and we were going to make sure he was on track really meant a lot. He is a Marine. He is a United States Marine. He's doing great. He was did very well in school, was an athlete, and then really threw us for a loop, honestly, senior year, and said, I'm going into the Marines, and decided that was, you know, his path. He felt very passionate about it and what he really wanted to do, and so he is just doing amazing today.
It's definitely been kind of like I guess up to this point, like a lifelong kind of process, but it's just kind of something that I feel like through kind of participating in that program early on, and then kind of through my own personal development, I've kind of been able to kind of just succeed in. So I think it's really important that, you know, children who have those needs can have access to care that can kind of help them learn how to be successful personally, socially, emotionally. And, you know, it's not an easy path to take. I don't think that, you know, anybody is going to say that it is, but it's definitely worth it in the long run. And also, you know, I think it helps develop a sense of closeness with your child. Like, I have a lot of memories with my mom, you know, good and bad, just kind of working through these issues together. And, you know, now that I'm at a point where I'm older, I can appreciate the fact that the program and just the work that I did kind of allowed me to have that relationship with her.
I currently work at a local pizza restaurant chain called Ruckus Pizza, Pasta, and Spirits. I love that job, but my other job is more my career, my business. I am a public speaker. I speak everywhere locally in North Carolina and then nationally as well. And that platform and business is called Matthew Schwab's Beats.
I don't think that early intervention literally saved my life, but weekly, it gave me something to look forward to, knowing that I was going to be okay. And I know it wasn't for me, it was for him, but it was also for me. I don't know that I would have gotten as involved in the community as soon as I did if I hadn't had such a positive experience with early intervention.
They'll say, no one really understands. Unless you've been in my shoes, you really don't understand what it's like. And I get to say, guess what? I've been in your shoes. I was a parent too. Some will ask, like, how is he doing now? That's what they want to know. What's going on with him now? He's 25. Can you imagine your son or daughter 25 years from now? Being able to work, read, talk, and they're like, no. But you can just see their face and everything, it changes, and you can see the hope and the inspiration that it brings to them.